Welcome to a new episode of Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. However, if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work to get more content out, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as the most recent, Bringing Out the New You to Play in the New World, along with our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and is also in the description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As more of us come together who are creating shifts in themselves, the more effective it will be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of the change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
So welcome everybody. We get to play once again. So welcome to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. Today we're doing episode 34, and that is becoming lucid in your life dream. And that's a big one because a lot of people understand lucidity or what we call lucid dreaming, but there's a deeper understanding of that, and there is a purpose of using it in a particular way. I am running the show by myself, so I'm going to do my best to see if I can see your comments and questions along the way. However, I'm going to have to stay on track and then check time to time. So I'm just going to quickly play with some of this since I'm trying to do this all at once. All right, so let's play and let's take a look at what this becoming lucid. Well, what is lucid? It's being aware that you actually have charge, control, that you can actually shape something. So a lot of people have talked about having lucid dreams. So most people understand we have a dream. And when we're dreaming, we're experiencing ourselves in this other reality, which is basically in the depth of our mind. And we're experiencing ourselves playing out a particular scenario or other individuals playing in within our scenario. Now, dream state is a very powerful tool, and this is the reason we have it. Now, part of it can become intuitive and connecting to parts that we may not be so open to receive on a daily basis in our active life, we call active life. But at other times we have to look at it and say, okay, the other parts of ourselves is, am I actually just a bystander or an observer of my dreams, or does the dream have more available for us, and can I actually take charge of it? So what's happened is this whole understanding that we can step into what we call a lucid dream. So when we're stepping into that lucid dream, we're basically taking charge of the dream, meaning that you can activate any part of the dream. So you're part of the shaping. Instead of just being the observer, you're the observer and also the one that's shaping it. Now, that still exists all the time anyways. However, you become conscious of the navigational point. Now, let's talk about the dream, of course, that we're talking about in the sleep state. So you go to sleep and you end up having dreams. Now, some people remember their dreams, other people do not remember their dreams. And there can be stages where we remember it and don't remember it. Now, that does not mean that you're not going through a dream state. It's just basically that part of you has chosen not to be remembering it. Now, you may consciously say, I want to remember my dreams. But from a superconscious level, it's saying, okay, we don't need to have that as part of the experience, and we don't have to plug any of that in at this point in time. So let's not make that a priority for us to remember it, because we don't want to have the carryover. Even though we want to have the beneficial effect of that experience, we don't need to bring it into what we call the waking state in remembering what the details may have been through that beautiful experience of whatever that may have been. Now, of course, dreams take different forms. Some dreams, are intense. Some dreams we feel that will stir up certain emotions for us. Sometimes there will be exhilaration or feeling of freedom, but in many cases too, that we have a very negative component that comes up. Some of the dreams actually bring up certain stuff that we are already dealing with in an accentuated way so that we can actually move through it. Now, the beauty of that dream state is that it doesn't have the same limitation and boundaries. Now, there still is, but not to the degree of what we call the awakened dream, because that's the other part of the dream. So let me share the three components. Of course, you got the sleep state that you go into a dream state. Then you have the awakened dream state, which is basically what we call awakened reality, because this one we're much more engaged in it. We can feel more, see more, experience more, and get lost more in the game to the point it becomes so real. So that's that dream. But there's a third one. That third dream is basically a dream that we actually can use. So that dream is what we can call imagination. Now, I'm talking about a different type of imagination in a sense. Even it has a similarity, but that level of imagination is dreaming. So in a sense, you start to see yourself having a particular experience and what that experience may entail. So you're still using your creative ability and imagination, but you're now going outside of what you call the awakened state and the other dream state. So now you can now start shaping that particular dream. So some people call daydreaming. And what is that daydreaming? The daydreaming is the fact that you're not asleep, but you're awake, but you're going to this altered state. And this altered state is your other level of dream state. And you get to play in that other level of dream state. So you allow your imagination to create certain realities and experiences that you choose. Now, what is that dream state for? That's a sampling state. That's a state where you can actually create the foundation to shape certain things. Now, there's a lot of factors that may come in play in regards to what is involved in that particular awaken or dream state, or what we call daydreaming. So that daydreaming part of it, part of it could be a wishful part where the ego gets involved, or the mind and whatever else. And then there's the other part that wants to use that environment to sample what it would be if you actually used it in your awake state, meaning that your current reality that you're experiencing, engaging with others, you get to play there and you get to sample it. So you can imagine yourself in that dream and how certain outcomes take place, or what choices you may make. Now, the beauty of that type of dream is that, especially if you have choices to make, and there's several different options, could be just two options, could be multiple options. So what you do is you allow yourself to go into this so-called daydreaming. You can do this in a slightly meditated state, or just focusing on the breath at first and see yourself there. But you could also do it, now you don't want to do it while you're doing something that requires your full attention, but you make the time to see yourself making different choices. So let's take the example of having two choices to make. Do I take A or do I take B? So what you can do in the daydreaming part, you can see yourself, envision yourself, imagine yourself making choice A. So once you make choice A, see yourself experiencing choice A. I'm just going to lower this. Experiencing choice A, and then observe how it feels and plug in certain parts of it and unplug certain parts of it to get a better feel as you're going through it, to see how it actually resonates for you at that time. So what the purpose of that is so that you can get to experience it before you make that choice and go down that path. That is to really fine-tune the capacities for you to have what you call awakened state experience while you go into that dream state. So you can see how powerful the dream state can be, or awakened state can be. The awakened state, so you make that choice A, you see yourself going through the motions, the people that are engaged and so forth. Now, there's two parts to that. So you could see where you're plugging in certain parts, but there's another part that you allow. And that is, as you plug it in, see yourself going through the experience and allowing other alignments to come in place, because that does occur. We have to understand that this is a collaborated experience. Our, daydreaming is still part of the field of what we are creating in all levels of reality. So at that point in time, certain individuals may come into play. Certain individuals may say or share or react a certain way. Now, the beauty of that is, as you're plugging certain things in, their reaction or their response or their involvement, their engagement will vary based on how you are approaching that dream. So, give you an example. If you need to go somewhere and you see yourself with two options, you say, I go to option one, I'm going to show up at this family function. And what does this family function provide? Well, okay, there's certain individuals, your family dynamics, and whatever that represents, because, again, they're in that field and that is your playground that you're entering. So you see yourself going there. You see yourself experiencing yourself going to this family function. And then at that point in time, you can now sample how you would want to step into it. So for example, if you see yourself going in there as, first of all, maybe your automatic default in defense mode because you're not liking what they may be saying to you normally in what you call awakened state, and you can see yourself in that state. But the beauty of that is you can choose to enter any which way. So you observe that defense mode and you choose not to step into that defense mode. You're choosing to step into what you can call an active role where you are being yourself. You step into being yourself in there as the way you choose to be. For example, a lot of us want to be ourselves, but when we step into the family dynamics, we seem to have a default going into a different state of play or feeling a different way or making different choices. So we step away from our true essence of what we are a representation of when you enter that dance with the family dynamics. So here's the beauty. So now you, in this dream state or awakened daydream state, you can see yourself making different choices. So you go in there as an empowered self, or what you call a choice of being fully yourself. And then by being yourself, speaking the way you would speak, communicating, connecting, and holding that energy in that dream state, you will see that the individuals will respond very differently with you than the typical way they may have experienced, or you may have experienced, when you go into defense mode. Because once you're entering in an empowered mode, being yourself, you're changing the landscape. You're actually giving new instructions. You're actually looking at, connecting with other versions of your family dynamic, which you probably have not really got a chance to experience. And if you did, it might have been just a glimpse of it. But now you're seeing that. So you can go through that whole experience, seeing yourself going through the process of experiencing yourself in that reality. And now you could see if somebody interacts with you a certain way, for example, and they may want to push your buttons or something like that, well, of course you want to look at the buttons, but that's not what the focus is going to be right now. You're going to be able to look at it and say, okay, how do I truly want to respond to this individual? My uncle, my brother, my my mother, whoever it may be, siblings of any sort at this point in time, or any other forms of relatives and friends that may be involved in that so-called family dynamic. I'm using this as just an example. So when you see yourself there, sometimes what happens is we see ourselves responding a certain way when we're there in so-called awakened state. But now that you're in this daydream state, you're now going to choose to respond the way you choose without having that default kicking in. And you can even sample more than one, multiple different responses. But the best thing to do is respond in the way that is your natural state, your true state, rather than the default state. So by doing this, you are in a lucid daydream by experiencing it and just plugging in whatever. So you're actually shaping it. So in fact, if you normally go to your family dynamics and there's a very negative energy, you're going in with that higher energy, and you can see yourself in that daydream opening your heart and blasting everybody with love. And that will change the energy of the space and the energy of the individuals that are occupying or being part of that family dynamic gathering. So you can see how powerful that becomes. This is the thing, is that lucid dream of what you could call lucid daydream can be used in a very powerful way. Now, you have option number 2. So you say, okay, I'm now going to make a choice of number 2. So you see yourself not going to the family dynamics. You're not going to the gathering, per se. So now you can envision yourself, what else would you do? But also observe how you may feel. So you choose to do something else. Now, you may feel a tug in a sense where, a sense of responsibility that you need to go and they expect you to go or something. You want to put that out of there, but you can experience it if you want. Because if you're feeling that and you say, okay, do I support this? Do I want to support it or not? And if you say no, then you say, no, I'm not going to support guilt. I'm not going to support the fact of a sense of responsibility that I need to be there. And experience yourself in that path of not going, not being involved at that point, and see how it feels. And you can plug in other options of what I'm going to play or do instead of. And you can see yourself how it feels. So this becomes a powerful tool. Now, because of the fact you can plug in and remove, that makes it lucid. And again, you can also bring the energy of being yourself in option number 2 or B or whatever you want to call it. The second option, you can see yourself experiencing being yourself. Now, after you've done both exercises, you can see which one resonates the most and which one you want to go have some more fun with. Now, if you see one not being fun at all, then you can ask yourself, why would I not have fun? Well, a lot of times what happens is that we're plugging in, again, those versions of previous experiences, previous engagements that you may have had when you went to these family functions. So at that point, you want to put that out of the equation. You want to say, okay, I'm going there as a lucid being, and I'm going to experience what I choose to experience. And use it that way for both options, if you have 2. And if you have more, you go through the various stages. But you use the daydreaming in a lucid state. The lucid, again, just to remind you, is the opportunity for you to be active in the experience. It is not outside of you. You are fully engaged in plugging in and removing any part of that experience. And that's the beauty of the daydreaming. Now, the other thing about the daydreaming you can use for is when you have a particular experience and desire that you may have that you may not be experiencing in your awakened dream, or in this case, reality of sorts, just as a reference point. Because it is still a dream, and I'll explain that a little later. But at that point, you can see yourself there plugging in the experience that you're desiring. Something that you say, I want to have that experience in my life. and I want to plug that in. So now you can go into the daydream state and see yourself having that particular experience. If it involves individuals, see those individuals coming in. If you're choosing to create something that changes your environment, see yourself in that different environment. So when you're experiencing that, pay attention to how you feel as you're going through it. Because what happens is you get a good observation of how it actually feels. Now, don't do this just for a moment. You spend some quality time with it. So you're actually seeing yourself, and then move the time sequence along the way, saying, okay, now I've been in it for a little while. I choose to experience much more of this as I go along. So by giving yourself that opportunity, you're able to get a better feel if that what you wanted to plug in is actually a true fit. Or does it involve certain levels of compromise that may not be what you're willing to compromise at this point in time? Now, some of us have this say, okay, well, I'm going to have that experience and I want to have this in my life and then I'll feel good. Well, then you use your daydreaming part. You go in there, plug it in, and see yourself feeling good. But at the same time, observe as you're spending more and more time and make sure you plug in all the other details that may come with that choice. So for example, you bring a certain partner and so forth. See yourself in that partnership. See yourself with all aspects of it, and also moving forward in a sense, not just the honeymoon stage, or what we call the falling in love stage, but also how it feels interacting with each other. Now, you may not know the individual very well. That's okay. You don't even have to know them. But when you're experiencing, that part of them locks in and starts to communicate with you, and you get to see how each are interacting with you. Both parties will interact. So how you're interacting with them and how they're interacting with you, but you're always observing and utilizing that opportunity for you to see how it actually feels. Now, you can do this at different increments, meaning that you can go through the daydream, have that experience, get the feedback and so forth, and let it be. And then you can go back later on, same day, next week, and see yourself doing it again. What happens is every time you do these exercises, you're also changing your default settings within yourself, but you're also changing your energy, and you're also changing the energy and the different engagements, reactions, and responses from the individuals involved. So when you may check the next time, it may feel a little bit different or may feel a lot different. So because of the fact that you're using the daydream, it's actually upgrading you in one way or another. I've seen this happen before, where we put a lot of attention on having something because we create a lot of stories, observing from others, that this will provide me this, whatever that may be. And then, seeing yourself using the daydream to experience it. But as you do it, each time you go there, it becomes a little more crystal clear, and other details come into play so that you get a better feel and a better knowing of how it actually does feel, or how it does play out with you, rather than the perceptual component of what that meant. Because this is the thing, is that a lot of times we have different perceptions of how it's going to be. And then we really don't know until we start to experience it in what we call the awakened state. This gives you the powerful tool to see yourself prior to, so that you don't have to always create a particular experience and move slowly. Now, the reason that helps, because you get to not only get a clearer feel of whatever choice you're going to make or what you feel is so important in your life, but you're also setting the stage, and you also get to create the outline. But again, by doing that, you're also getting a truer feeling of how it resonates for you in that state. So you're going to involve every aspect of yourself. So you're going to feel it you're also going to allow your soul to be part of it, and you get to experience it. So that's the daydream part. Now let's talk about the night dream, or what we normally know as the night dream. And how does that serve? Well, we're going into a state where the mind can create and use various different resources, and also the links from other resources that may come in, and now you're creating a dream or a reality that is not experienced physically in the awakened state, but is practiced or utilized in what we call the sleep state. So in that, there's several purposes for that. The first one is the fact that you get to experience certain things that are a little more difficult to create when we're looking at what we call in reality. There's a lot more organization, and there's some limits that we encounter in the awakened state, and also there's more of alignments that have to take place. So that can take a little bit more time, and the fact that sometimes we are limited by the individuals coming into play, because those alignments may take a little bit of work to do, and the fact of where the environment may be. It may not be in your regular place of your normal dwelling or playing, work, and so forth. So if it requires something outside of that and engaging any part of it, it can access other levels of realms, or in this case, what fields within planet Earth. Now, sometimes it goes off planet, but most of the cases it's on planet. So it will bring forth different sceneries and different involvement with different playmates, and it moves a lot quicker and easier because you can move through it very quickly, rather than your so-called awakened state, which takes a lot more effort to get things going. Even though things are speeding up, the dream state has much more flexibility. Now, there's also not as much limits, and when I say limits, it does not have the certain things of referring with your own personal limits. Now, that can apply, but the limits can be removed. So if there are certain fears, you can go into that lucid state saying, I am choosing to design it this way, and you can use the dream state to be shaped in the way you choose. Now, a lot of people have felt, in the lucid dream, is that you may be falling. And then what you're doing is all of a sudden you sprout out some wings, or you have a parachute, or something comes into play, so you do not get harmed. Now, sometimes you do in that dream state because you haven't plugged in the lucid part where, okay, activate whatever. Want to activate wings, I want to activate flying capacities, I want to activate, water at the bottom, or parachute, or whatever it is. You can activate that part. That's the lucid dream part you can now navigate. Plus, in that lucid dream, you have the same thing as the daydream, but you're now plugging it in to the point where you're putting in certain individuals that normally may not be in your life, or versions of those individuals in your life, maybe even people that are not even on the planet at this time because they checked out or whatever it may be, they come into the play. So there's a lot more flexibility, and you can move in and out very quickly. Now, the purpose that serves is, first of all, it shows you that there are more possibilities, probabilities, and potentialities available. The second part, it may trigger certain programs, belief systems, emotions, and so forth, so that you can see that those are active, and that you can work on it so that you can clear it out. You can acknowledge its presence, appreciate the presence, the love of its presence, or that whatever that may be that's playing out, and then you can let it go. You can clear it out. You can purge it. So you use the dream state for that, and the dream state to imagine even bigger state without the limits. Now, the beauty is that in the so-called sleep dream state, it becomes quite real. So you can feel it much more powerfully at times than, say, you're what you call daydreaming. Now, because of the lack of limits, because in the daydream we tend to plug in certain parts of what the mind will say, okay, this is possible, that's not possible, whatever it is. Where in the dream state, it kind of overrides that in a very powerful way. Not fully, but enough to bring much more opportunities. So it allows us to purge whatever's in us. It allows us to complete certain experiences. It also gives us the opportunity to see that there's much more potentiality and that in fact we can experience certain things. Now, of course, if it triggers certain powerful emotions, it just kind of shows that, hey, I got active emotions within myself and you want to really experience it and clear that part. So the lucid part is seeing yourself active and that you have really the capacities to shape that dream. So both the daydream and the night dream both can utilize fully operational the lucid part, which you are going into the driver's seat of both dreams. Now, the other part of the lucid dream component of it, as you establish those experiences and you plug in the opportunity to be lucid and you go it becomes exciting. It actually enhances your experience of your day-to-day life because that realm gives you opportunities to kind of experience things that are not so easily to experience in this, giving you more enrichment, giving you more experientially rich, and it also gives you times to even clear out stuff that is even coming from a past life. So there's a lot of different opportunities that are utilized when you're having what we call the dream state of sleep or sleep dream state. So the thing is, a lot of people have been having more active, more intensified, much more rapidly shifting parts of our dream state, the sleep dream state. So you could see how things are playing out in the sense of how we experience it. Now, every time you're using the lucid dream and you're plugging in, you're actually changing some of the limits and barriers. You're actually dissolving certain parts of it. And at other times, you're actually bringing in other parts of it, facets of yourself, parts of you that can really access something even grander than what you normally would be able to play with. So these are some of the things that are made available for you in that lucidity or that lucid sleep state. And then at the same time, if you allow yourself to be in a very playful way, your daydreaming may not have to have any limit. Now, a lot of times we say, okay, I want to plug in some current reality. But let's take a look at it. When we are doing lucid dreaming, when we are using these dreams, because they're there for us, we're already experiencing it. Maybe some of us kind of felt that we outgrew the daydreaming part, but realistically, we all do it to some degree, maybe not to the same capacities we may have done before, or that we have accentuated further. The dream state, the night dream state, yes, we are utilizing it much more powerfully. Like I said earlier, you may not remember it, but it is still being effective. Now, if you remember it or you see yourself in that dream, it doesn't matter if you don't remember when you wake up, step into the whole idea that you want to go into lucid. Now, how do you do that? How do you get into the lucid dream? Well, when you're going to sleep, you can say to yourself over and over again until you fall asleep. At this point in time, I choose to be fully lucid and active and knowing that I have the opportunity to shape my dream and utilize it. Because that's what the dreams are for, to be utilized, both your daydreaming and what you call sleep dreaming. They're both to enhance this particular experience in this physical form, in this particular playground. This is the reason why we have it. This is the reason we have the capacity to really stretch it. Now, both involve the mind. Both are accessing those parts. Now, when you're looking at all of this, what you call your sleep state may also bring certain things of the past, like I was saying earlier. So you can play it out, work it out, and whatever it is. But you can also plug it into your dream state. So in fact, if you have something traumatic in your life, for example, just as an example, that plays out, you can use your so-called daydream state to see that experience going on. Now, of course, if it triggers emotions or whatever it is, give yourself the opportunity to experience it. Give yourself the opportunity to feel it. Give yourself the opportunity to be present with you, not outside of you. But when you're doing that, see yourself again in that particular experience. See yourself playing out that experience, but this time make a different choice. Now, remember, when you made the choice of whatever that may have been that was traumatic, yes, of course, it played out a certain way. We were in a different state of consciousness. Our human size may have been different. It could have been a young person or whatever it is. And at that point in time, didn't see that there were many options, even though we did, but we weren't so aware of it. But see yourself in that experience. But if you see yourself that you do not have a choice, the lucid part comes in and says, okay, I'm going to plug in that I actually have a choice. And I've used this for so many people when we do regressions or we do certain clearing of certain patterns of particular traumatic experiences in the past. So you can use that in your daydreaming. So you see yourself having that experience and then making another choice. The choice is, no, I'm not agreeing for this. And of course, if you're going to have fear, you acknowledge the fear, thank the fear, whatever it is, and then let it go. But then say, I have no fear. That's the beauty of lucid dreaming. You can plug it in. It doesn't matter what you believe and don't believe, you plug it in. I have no fear. In fact, I have power to choose my direction of my life. I am not bound by any limits at this point in time. So you can practice that ahead of time before you go into the dream state, that I am, no matter what I'm going to experience, I am in the driver's seat and I can shape it in any which way I want. Now, what happens with that? Of course, you want to notice that there is no judgment about any particular experience, because that's another program, that's another label, and so forth. We don't want to judge anything. So go in it as, I'm going to re-experience this. I'm going to go and play with this in a powerful way, completely free and clear. And when you're in there, then you can plug it in. So what happens to that? In that particular dream state, you also see the opportunity to shift that intense traumatic charge and also whatever played out in the past, because in the daydream you've changed it. That rewires it. Actually, in the dream state or awakened dream state, or let's call it daydreaming state, you're also recording that into your subconscious mind. It's new data, new information, new viewpoint, new way of experiencing it. So it starts to override and negate some of the powerful charge that may be locked in from the subconscious level, which the ego loves to grab and go for a marathon with it. But anyways, what you're looking at, so when you're in that experience, you see yourself having that experience and choosing different choices, because now you have a different level of consciousness, you have a different awareness, and you're now in the driver's seat, where before you may have felt that you weren't in the driver's seat, even though you were. But you pretty well believed, because that was part of the experience, that you weren't in the driver's seat. Now you're in the driver's seat. So being in the driver's seat, guess what happens? Then you can shape it much more powerfully. So that's how it works, by using the daydream state in a lucid way. So that's what the beauty of being lucid, because then you are in charge of reshaping any part of it. All right? Now, there's another role that you could use all of this. So we call the sleep state. So we go into our sleep state and we are dreaming in a sleep state. So you may have certain experiences that you may not have had a good handle of, for example, or it may trigger certain emotions and so forth, and you've probably felt a little less lucid than you would have liked to. So what happens? So if you remember it, or even just the emotional imprint of it, then you can take that memory when you wake and you plug it into your dream, or what you call daydreaming state. You plug in that event. See yourself experiencing that event in the daydreaming. But this time, because you're in the awakened state, you now could activate your dream, what you call your lucid dreaming part, your active control part, much more effectively. Now, eventually that will bleed over and you become more effective at this, because as you practice, each time you go into it, you're able to utilize it more and more. But you take that and you plug it into your daydream and you redesign it. So you see yourself experiencing and making new choices or plugging in whatever you feel. Now you have to understand that that doesn't have to have limits either. Even if you stretch it and go really far and, seeing yourself playing out a particular role that maybe not something that would be of interest, but you stretch it, and what happens is it creates a pattern disrupt of what, would have been the norm of what as a pattern response. So what you're doing then is by going through that experience and stretching it, as much as you may not be going through that, it actually activates certain parts of you so that you can actually navigate more effectively, and you bring it down to the state that what you can potentially do. So there's your two dream states that you have the opportunity to play in a lucid way, awakened, fully controlled state. So that leaves one more. And this is what we call awakened reality. Well, awakened reality is really a dream, because in fact, for us to be experiencing this, you need to be in a dream state. Because if you're too fully awake, you're source. As source, nothing exists and everything exists. But there is no form, there is no polarity, there is no playground to play as source, because source is creating it. So what you're doing is you're stepping into that dream state, because once you awaken, and I'm talking about in non-form, you realize that you're source, you're one with everything. So it changes the platform of the playground. So when we're talking about the awakened state, awakened dream state, then what we have the possibility to do is use our lucidity. Again, what is lucidity? Well, it's feeling, knowing that you are in charge of shaping your reality. Now, this already exists. This is a fact. But most of us disregard the fact because we get lost in the game. And that's okay. That was a pretty cool experience. But now you're bringing that in. So, in fact, you could see yourself. Now, you could play with the so-called daydreaming to kind of practice and whatever. But when we're talking about the awakened state, now you keep reminding yourself, I'm choosing to be lucid in this awakened dream, awakened way of life. What that happens is that you're now feeling yourself more empowered, and you feel yourself more in the driver's seat, eventually fully in the driver's seat. You're always in the driver's seat, but at times what we do is we put ourselves out of the driver's seat and letting other things play out that, can simulate this idea that, it's driving you when in fact you're driving it. So even individuals coming into our life and playing a particular role, guess what? They're only able to play the role that you assign them. It's the role that you approve for them to play. But there was an agreement. There's a benefit for both parties involved. It's not outside of you. It's not something that's disconnected from you. It's still part of it. So when you start playing the game of life, the awakened part of our life, you can choose to be lucid. That means that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to change any aspect of it. So what happens? We have these defaults. So for example, you go to work, okay? And this is a play with it, and utilize it. You could start at different stages of it and plug in more and more. So you go to work and somebody says something to you and you have your default of saying, oh yes, I agree, whatever it is, right? So you say, okay, I'm choosing to be lucid. Of course, you start the day with that and you remind yourself. So you're walking into work, I'm saying, I choose to be lucid in my experience. Lucid meaning I want to be aware of what I actually want to say rather than what my default is. So the same individual will come in and say something to you instead of going automatic default. As the lucid is, how do I really want to respond? Now, of course, we don't want the ego involved, so you're really going to get rid of the ego part of it and say, well, no, I'm not going to respond to an ego. Remember, ego is going to have polarization. That's what it does. It does only polarization, really. And so if it says, I want to F off this person, then you know that's from judgment. That's ego itself. However, in a lucid state and an aware state, your choice may be, instead of just agreeing, you now share what you need to share. Non-polarized, of course, because at that point in time, somebody says, oh, you know, we need to do this today. And you will now, in the lucid state, say, you know something, I understand what you're saying. However, I'm choosing not to participate in that way, or I see it differently and I'd like to see it, how it works out this way. Now, it could be your boss. It could be somebody that, you know, so-called stepping into a state of authority, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But at that point in time, you still have the fact of saying, you know, I do not agree with that right now. And I'd really like to get a deeper understanding, or the fact that I'd like to try it this way, or I would like to do it this way, so that in fact I feel holistic about it or feel good about it. You don't have to use quite those words. I'm just saying. So you're basically now being yourself. So a choice of being fully yourself is stepping into the lucidity part, where you're lucid. You're in charge of your role instead of using the defaults to kick in all the time and keeping you just following a certain pattern. So what does that do? Well, when you are becoming lucid in that regards, you're actually changing your playground. First of all, you're changing, because you're no longer going into the default of responding a certain pattern and keeping you stuck there or keeping you in a repetitive cycle. You're now going in and becoming more active in that regard. So you are now stepping into that empowered state, which changes your state, changes your energy, changes your focal point, and also creates a new navigational component of yourself. You're able to see more of the options. The other thing is, by doing that, by being yourself, being lucid, and plugging in what part of that experience you want to have, it actually now creates alteration to your environment and also the playmates. You basically see other versions of whoever you normally play with every day, because you're going into a different energy and you're also changing the frequency of the environment. Now, we have to understand, and I just want to make this clear so that you understand. In any reality that we're in, your current reality, what you're seeing, it doesn't matter if you're at home, you're at work, you're outside, you're whoever or wherever, okay? There are many, many multiple layers of that reality. It may look the same, it will respond somewhat different, in some cases quite different, but there's also different versions of playmates that are, for example, you have a boss, you have various versions of it. They're all overlaid, and it depends on your energy. Depending on what choices you make, you see the version that most matches. Some people call it the law of attraction. Well, it's quite not that. But at the same time, it's basically what you're doing is you're changing the spectrum of light that you are projecting, and then you're looking at the layer that best matches that frequency that you are playing out. So it provides you the feedback and the engagement to play at your, through your own choice. That's the beauty of that. So in essence, we have to understand there's multiple versions, and I'm sure all of you at some point or another have experienced that you may engage yourself depending on the state that you're in and how you're feeling. You've encountered versions of, say, a sibling, from a parent, from co-workers, friends. Sometimes we say, oh, they're in a good mood or a bad mood. Well, it doesn't matter what mood they may be in, you're going to see the mood that basically is going to match you. And when I say match you, serve you the best, because it's a requirement for you to have that to play there because of where you're at. A lot of times is to pay attention that your focus point or your energy is focused on a certain level, and that is kind of playing out for you. Sometimes people call it mirrors. Well, it's not quite the same. The belief that what the mirror is and saying, well, if you see this, this is what's there. It also indicates a certain frequency, and it also brings up certain programs for you, because it really, what do you want to do? You want to shift it. You want to clear it out. It's not something you're going to want to support any longer. That's the only reason. So these are the three parts of our experience, what we call lucid. So the lucidity is used in your dream state, and you can plug it in. I'll remind you once again, you go in while you go to sleep. I choose to have my dreams in a lucid state. I choose to be lucid in my dream state so I can shape it. Now, don't go in and like, I got to shape it because I'm gonna feel bad if I can't. No, you just choose. I choose to have a lucid dream. Now, if it doesn't happen the first night, second night, third night, you just keep doing it. And you may repeat it several times before each and every dream. Now, of course, or each and every time. And when you're in there, because you've said it so many times, you've programmed as a default saying, okay, I choose to experience lucidity in my dream state, my sleep dream state. So when you're having that, whatever's playing out with you and whatever engagement's going on, you're going to be able to navigate from a lucid point, because it's going to come into your mind. So you're plugging that into your mind when you're having the dream state. Now, some people practice. There are different techniques that you can learn how to become more lucid, but don't use it just for the dream state of what you call the sleep lucid dreaming. Use it also for your daydreaming lucid, and then your awakened state, or what we call awareness reality of around us, in that. So the point of lucidity is being in charge, in control. You're consciously aware of shaping things. Now, you can practice. You can practice each and every time. And don't expect it just to flick on. Now, sometimes it will. But at certain times, you're going to practice with it, play with it. And what happens, you're conditioning yourself to be able to keep that is in your consciousness and be able to utilize it in a powerful way. So any part of your experience will have the capacity to experience that lucidity at any point in time. The reason I'm sharing all of this right now, because many of us still feel in a victim state. Because when you're lucid, when you're having a lucid sleep state, when you're having a lucid daydream, and when you're having a lucid reality dream or awakened dream, when I say awaken like you are right now, playing whatever it is, you're stepping out of victim mode. It's really difficult to be lucid and be a victim at the same time. Now, if you're truly in lucid state, now you could choose in a lucid state to play the victim. And that is perfect. You can use it in the sleep state. You can use it in your daydreaming. You can use it in your reality. But be aware when you're doing that, so you can tweak it, upgrade it, change it at any point in time. So sometimes we don't realize how much of a victim that we may be playing the role. Now, because there's so many disguises of victimhood, the fact that we're disempowered, that anything outside of us has power, that's victim already. You know, there are many, 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 many versions of it. And one day we might even cover it more. But I did cover it in different episodes, you know, the victim state, and also some of the workshops that I've done. I've been talking about that for quite some time. So it's nothing new. But so the fact is, when you're going into the lucid, you're actually kind of shifting away from the victimhood and even the victimizerhood, where you're stepping into empowered. Because lucidity activates empowerment. Now, empowerment is not limited to your awakened state. That empowerment is to be utilized also in your sleep state or sleep dreaming state. You can utilize it in your so-called daydream state and also your awakened state. So you have all three, that empowered state. And the more you practice it in different parts, it bleeds into the others. So if you're experiencing yourself in the daydream, in an empowered state, you're already creating a blueprint, a new wiring to default in empowerment. So use the daydream to empower yourself by seeing yourself empowered. And do that on a regular basis. It starts to filter into your awakened state. Of course, you're choosing at any point in time. I choose to be lucid, but I also choose to play empowered. Now, I say this very loosely for you, but it's very powerful, is I choose to play in an empowered state. And then you follow suit by experiencing yourself in an empowered state. What does empowerment mean? That you're actually aware that you are the designer, that you are shaping and creating your reality and co-creating your reality. So, of course, there's no room for what we call disempowerment. There's no room for victimhood in any way, shape, or form. So, in that empowered state, it doesn't give power to others. You're actually taking the power back. And what looks like back, you're just basically stop distributing it and you just hold it in your space, because we all have power or our empowered state, but we give that away. And at times we give it away to certain so-called authorities. We give it to religious factions. We give it away to family. And what I'm saying, giving it away, is basically saying, okay, they have power over me, or that because they're playing this role, I don't really have an empowered state or a capacity to utilize. A lot of times we don't relate to empowerment, but then we go, but the moment you're not empowered, you're in disempowered. And as long as you're deep in disempowered, you're a victim. And in victim, of course, you're playing out the game. And that's so cool. I mean, you can have that experience if you choose to. You can have fun with any aspect of that. That's your freedom to do so. However, it's not absolutely necessary. And I would give you a little secret at this point in time. The secret is, it is really no longer of service any longer. You want to have a little taste of it? Have a little taste. It's like tipping yourself in there. But most of us are so saturated by it because we've all played the game. And a lot of times, you know, even being the victimizer, again, you're still in a disempowered state because we use the victimizer role to overcome certain ideas of what we represent to ourselves and also to others, or trying to make a statement or playing out from a program base, because you need to be a victim. You need to have a certain program to play a victim, but you need another program to play a victimizer. And again, neither can play with each other unless they agree to do so. And that's an empowered state altogether. So when we're looking at all of this, now you have the opportunity to use your lucidity, your lucid playing. So that involves observation and empowerment. So practice with your daydreaming, practice it in your sleep state, practice it in your awakened state. By creating the opportunity to use all three platforms, you're totally rewiring yourself. You're totally activating parts that may have gone dormant, and you become more active as a powerful creator. And this is the reason I'm sharing this with you, because you're ready for it. We all have the freedom to use any part of this experience, really stepping it up. And that's what we're doing. We're giving ourselves the opportunity to step it up. So why not use our lucidity, or what you call lucid part of our experience, in dream, awaken, or in this case, daydreaming, and your perfect awaken reality of what we're playing right now. So I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to look at some of the comments to see if there's any questions that need to be addressed. Because I'm doing this all by myself here. I have it on my screen here, but you know, I have to go a little closer to see it because it's pretty small writing and I'm not the best of vision, plus I have to scroll through it. So if there's anybody that has a burning question, please post it now. Or else we're going to do a little process together to kind of experiment and just to kind of support you through this. And I would recommend, of course, to replay and reutilize this episode because the more you expose yourself to repeating it and the more you practice with it, the more empowered you become, much more natural it becomes for you, and you'll be able to use it more effectively. All of us are choosing to move forward in a very powerful way, so let's use it. I mean, it's gifted. We gifted it ourselves. We brought it in as a component. And this is why we have 3 levels of it. You know, I know most people imagined that the dream was a dream, you know, and that we didn't have the capacity to navigate it. Of course, some people have learned about lucid dreaming, or, you know, active dreaming, or what we can call, you know, utilizing the dream and stepping into the role. Now, some of the dreams, of course, we can plug in our consciousness, and we tend to do that. But a lot of times it shows us where our consciousness is if you're having that dream. But again, you want to acknowledge that. And I would suggest a lot of the dreams, if you remember them and so forth, write it out. It's a very powerful tool. Write it out and then examine it. Go through it. See how it actually, what the message behind it is, or what you need to look at so that you can go in and shape it. But like I said, practice with it. This is practice, and it doesn't have to be hard work. Have fun with it. Play with it. This is why I say play, 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 because if you play with it, it's lighter. If you make it work, then, you know, we have this tendency to believe from a collective perspective that work is work, and work is hard, and work is, you know, giving away certain parts of the fun component. But no, play with it. Have fun with it. You know, again, you know, this awakening, this shifting, this transformation that we're going through, the changes that we're experiencing, it's really there for us to use it in a fun, playful way. This is why we have this capacity within ourselves. It's just, you know, as a child, we came in. Let's have fun. Let's taste. Let's experience. Let's run. Let's see how it feels in the body. Let's see what polarity is about. Let's do all of this stuff here. You know, and of course, as we grow up, we feel that in some way we had to give all that up. Well, that was just part of the experience of you know, that we chose to have, to see how it feels giving it all up. But now, what you're saying to yourself, I want to bring it all back in, so I'm going to utilize it. So use the 3 parts of it in the lucid capacity. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay. Yeah, dreaming about future situations. Yes, you can also practice with that. Plug it in to see what the future would look like. Now, understand that anything that you're plugging in, you're daydreaming of the future or in the night dream, see that as where you're at right now and whatever's active, and you have the freedom to advance it. So in fact is that it's going to upgrade. You want to understand that you are upgrading it. You're not locked in any way, shape, or form from that original whatever you're doing now. So based on what you are now, use yourself to project the future, but in an lucid way where you're shaping it. But at the same time, as it unfolds, each time you use it, you're going to upgrade it anyway. So it's not fixed in any way. Very vivid dreams as it's another life. Yes, you're going to have that, because at times what happens is, that's a good point, because I wanted to clarify that part. We do have other versions of ourselves in other parallel worlds. And when I say that, those worlds, you know, as much as they're active, they're subjective. And they're basically playing out in a way where we're using it as sampling and to get some feedback from it. It's other realities that we created and agreed to create with different scenarios. So a lot of times those vivid dreams are very powerful, because it actually allows us to use some of those experiences and create alterations in your operating system and your automatic default of what was, you know, considered before as a way that you would respond. So that's a very powerful tool too. So that's great that you're having those vivid dreams. Okay. Yes, you're going to have some weird dreams, absolutely. And it seems weird because it does really trigger some pretty powerful opportunities to bring stuff up, or to actually see how you would deal with it. and also to create much more self-empowerment within yourself. So some of these dreams are going to be really weird, and I have many of those myself. And of course, I happen to remember my dreams in quite detail. So sometimes but the thing is, I always look at how it feels when I come out of it. What am I feeling? And now, sometimes, for example, I may see something that is not so positive. Not that we have to give power positive or negative, or the focus on the negative side, what you can call lower frequency, lower consciousness, and so forth. Now, if it triggers some emotions or responses of that nature, then I know that I have a default of any sort that I need to address. So in that, or a belief system that may be, okay, we're not going to make it or not do whatever. I'm just giving you examples here. And you want to get to the point, why am I plugging this in? I could unplug all of this and see, I am designing it. In fact, I'm co-creating with all, so I shift that. But you shift it within yourself first. So you're still having a lucid dream. And I do, remind myself when I'm in the dreams not to be just the passenger. There's times I just want to observe, and other times I will step in the lucid dream and say, okay, great. What do I need to see here? What's the point here? What clarity is required? What needs to collapse? Or whatever it is within that, default and so forth. So, it's a powerful tool. Utilize it. All right. Okay, so experiences with family. Yeah, again, the lucidity, you use it in the daydream. All right, so let's check. That was Facebook. Let me just quickly check YouTube. Question. Great. I'm glad that you guys put that on there. Do all humans on the planet, hybrids, extras, everyone have the ability to experience lucid dreaming? Well, yes, it's all available for us. Now, if you're an extra, you may not utilize it much because you're not so much aware of it. In fact, you get so ingrained in that one column of life that the dream state becomes sort of an annoying sort of thing, and we don't associate with it. And your lucid dreaming, the daydreaming part of it, you kind of don't go there. But it's available for everyone. Everyone, hybrid or non-hybrid. It doesn't matter if your soul is from another dimension, because you have to understand, you get all the options when you're here in this physical form. Of course, you're going to utilize it more powerfully if you're an active player and you're choosing to experience it in a way so you use it as a more powerful tool for yourself and you're more conscious of it. Now you're listening to this. Are the extras going to be listening to this video? Possibly not, and would think that I'm a nut or whatever it is, or, I'm sure everybody's experienced where you're engaging with so-called extras or somebody that's really in the inverted 3D and 2D state, which doesn't mean that they're locked in all the time, that they have the possibility to shift it at any point in time, but may have that experience where they feel that, this is crazy, whatever it is. But the fact that it resonates for you, the fact that it actually activates a tool within yourself and you can utilize it, then guess what? Then it is, you have chosen to be present and active through this experience, and you're going to do it in a very powerful way and utilize it. So that's really what's that part of it. Let me just check if there's anything else. Okay, good question, Christine. When I get lucid dream, I always prone to wake up. How can I stay asleep? Okay. All right, we got some good ones here. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the other one. All right, so usually the reason that we're going to wake up or find a pattern of waking up is that we see what the dream is, the lucid dream, and there's that part of, say, the ego, or whatever it is at that point in time that may play out in that dream state, that, this is not possible, or whatever it is, or there's a a program behind it that, in fact, this is a dream, and because it gives you an opportunity to play with something else, it wants to pull you out of it. So what I would suggest at this point in time is each time you're going to sleep is that I'm choosing to have a lucid dream, but I choose to be in the dream until I decide to step out of it. So instead of waking up, you see, and usually the waking up is when it's either really good or not so good. So when it's kind of mediocre, you're still going to wake up, but you have a tendency to kick out of it less. Okay? So what you want to do is spend the time when you're seeing yourself going in there, and I'm activating my lucidity. I'm activating my lucid dreaming. So when you go to bed, you see, I'm going to be lucid in my dream state, and I choose to stay there until I choose to step out of it. I am free to stay in the dream and utilize the dream until I say no more. So again, that's going to take a little bit of rewiring. So what you're going to do is you're going to do this every night and practice, and you'll notice that it'll get longer and longer and longer, and coming up to the prone of waking up will become less and less the factor that's going to play out. So you will stay in there, and then when you get to the point it's like, I'm done with this, then you can choose to wake up from it or just step into another dream. And this is the good thing, you don't have to wake up, especially if you're still in, going through your stage of sleep, because there's still more time for you to sleep. Then you can shift from one dream to another. And some of you have had multiple dreams. I know I do most of the time. It's not just one dream over one night, it's multiple dreams. And some of the dreams you remember more than others because there's something. Especially if it's impactful, then you really want to spend the time right at the dream and look at what it's telling you or what it triggers for you, because the reason that you're remembering it, because it has a charge or it has some significance that is important for you to experience at this point in time, and utilize that, because the dream state, everything is supporting you in one way or another to really advance you forward. Okay, there was one just before that I wanted to check. Okay, I had a very vivid dream that my daughter's partner cheated on her. I waked up wake to him, giving off to him, or something like that. I remember what his reply was, don't think this is due to my fear. Okay. What it does is, so sometimes there may be fear, but other times it could be, how would I actually handle this? How would I give the advice if that was the case? Or, in fact, am I that open to be okay, even if that was the case? So these are kind of, again, opening you up, giving you the opportunity to expand in the way you see things, because a dance is a dance, and whatever role people take and whatever direction they go, it serves everybody involved. So you may have that dream state. So in essence, there may be an indication behind is like, I don't know, I doubt. So there may be a doubt that there's a loyalty factor involved in that, or that you may believe that there's a possibility that can happen because it's too good to be true, or the fact that it's always happened, or I've seen this happen so many times, or there's indications of certain things playing out that may resort to that. So it's just giving you the opportunity. So write it all out and say, okay, well, how does this make me feel? Is this something that I need to look at? What's coming up for me? So use that as a tool for that. Now, some dreams end up being prophetic in a way. Now, even if it's prophetic, it's still probable. Sometimes it plays out 100%. Other times it's a possibility which that other individual is considering. So you can use the lucid dream where you can have the conversation with the individual that is considering it. So, because this is another part of the lucid dream part of the dream state, that at times you can communicate with other partners or people at this point. So for example, the son-in-law, whatever it is, or at this point, and saying, okay, great, if that came up, and say, okay, let me have a conversation with them in that dream state and say, okay, why are you making this choice? Or, get some feedback back and forth, and also share your experience, your observation about what's playing out, because then what you're doing is, in the dream state, you're at times very much so communicating with another individual at the same time, both being in dream state. One may be considering something, you're observing that consideration, potential consideration at this point in time, and you're now giving them a certain insight that may alter that consideration so it doesn't have to go down that path. But at the same time, whenever you're entering there in that lucid dream, you don't want to see it as right, wrong, good, or bad. You want to see it as potentiality that will play out, or possibility of playing out. And you want to be completely neutral about it, because you have to understand it's going to play out the way that serves each involved party, being yourself and also your daughter and your son-in-law and whoever else is involved, kids, whatever, right? So you want to see it in that way. So utilize the lucidity and the lucid dream, especially when you're indicating with certain people, to be able to share that capacity of experience or whatever you want to communicate with them in that dream state. And a lot of times it may shift you in such a way so that that doesn't even play out in your reality as a possibility, but it also gives an experience and so forth. Now, I've had many people that have written to me at different times, or I've communicated with, I was puzzled with something and I saw you stepping into my dream state and giving me some directions or some clarity or something of that nature. Well, that happens. So at times we're serving each other because maybe we're not able to connect with them in the awakened state for whatever reason. There's many reasons that can happen. And then as long as you bring in and say, okay, I want to have a communication with my son-in-law, for example, or my boss, whatever it is, and you want to have that communication, and you can bring that into your dream state and then have the conversation you choose. You can also use that in your daydream state. So you can see yourself envisioning having that communication and what the response may be and sharing it more clearly. That actually starts to change your what I call waking reality, and it can also be used in the sleep state or sleep dream state as a lucidity, which also affects your day state or awakened state, as we call it. So there's different things to practice with and play with. All right. I've had dreams that come true. Can we change the direction of those? Yes, you can. The thing is, you want to understand why you want to change it. Now, if you have a polarization about it, right, wrong, good, bad, that's not what I want to experience. You have a fear around that, or you have a certain emotion charge of it, you want to address all of that stuff. You want to say you see the dream and address that. For example, you may have a dream and it's showing that. You may ask yourself, okay, in my lucid dream, how do I feel about it? What's playing out here? Notice what's coming up for you. Now, certain dreams you get to see, and we can't alter it so much, but it prepares us for it because there's a deeper involvement that we may not see on the surface. For example, if it involves certain people, that particular person may need that experience, or you may need the experience that will make an alteration or change within yourself. But you want to be in a position where there's no right, wrong, good, bad about anything, but at the same time, is it something that's going to serve you or not? So can we go in and change it? Well, specifically in lucidity, when you're in a lucid dream, then you can change the outcome in the dream, but at the same time, you're open to give that as a probability, and you've already reshaped it. And if you have a certain comeback experience about it, that's great. Then it doesn't have to play out in the awakened state, or it may play out a little bit different. The other way you can look at it is that you can go into that other part of it and experience yourself having that dream, whatever that may be, and look at whatever's coming up and get to the point of, okay, this is what needs to play out. I'm all right with that. So that lucidity is also making a choice that you're okay with it. And if it does play out, you're kind of prepared for it. And I'm not saying prepared because you have to have a default response, but prepared in the sense it's like, I already looked at that and that's the way it's going to go, and that's fine, because you have to understand there's many factors that we play. But yes, you can use it to reshape it. Now, if it doesn't don't think that you did a lousy job. It just needed to play out that way. But the thing is, when you practice doing that, then it doesn't have to play out fully. In most cases, it changes it anyways. Okay. All right. When I veil up, I have a rush in my body. Is it my astral body? When I veil up, I'm not sure what that means, but all right. So we do have different bodies. You know, we have an energetic body, of course. We have a light body. Of course, we have what we call our physical body. We have many other aspects, but they're all overlaid and so forth. Now, certain of those responses will come about based on what's triggered from the environment and what energies we need to feel from it. So, if there's certain parts that are coming along and energies and so forth, we may feel it in our energetic field or astral bodies and so forth, that in one way or another that we may feel impactful. So you observe it, you acknowledge its presence and go into it and see if there's something that triggers up within yourself. Because if you're going to react and so forth, then there's definitely, as much as that may be in the astral part of it, there's a bleed in, or in this case, an active story, program, belief systems, or perception that is in what you call your awakened reality that engages all of that. Because all of those things are all interconnected. So it's there to serve you and bring you to a point where you can utilize that part of it. So if it's coming up for you in any form, just write it out and ask yourself, walk through it and see what's bringing up for you in your awakened state, or in this case, what I call your reality. And then you want to look at the programs, stories, belief systems that may be involved in that, or some other clarity that may be coming about for you. So it's just really to get your attention. Why do we sometimes suddenly jerk and wake up? Well, that usually plays out when you're having a dream, because in essence the dream state is still involving your mind and your body is still engaged in the dream, so you're going to feel various things. So sometimes you may be startled and you're going to jolt because it sends a signal to the body that there is something that you just envisioned. Because you have to understand, the daydreaming, the awakened dream, and the sleeping dream, they're all involving the brain. They're all involving the mind. They're all involving that part of it that's connected to every other aspect of yourself, being the physicality. So you're going to feel and experience those reactions. So you're going to jerk, or you're going to jump up, or whatever it is. You may trigger a certain form of anxiety within yourself or something of that nature. Again, because it's played out in a way, there's a certain level of realism, and that's necessary to kind of rewire and also to bring forth whatever's playing out. So use those opportunities to say, okay, what happened? Now, at times you're going to see yourself falling or something of that nature, and you're going to jump back, and that happens to many of us at certain times in our life. Sometimes that happens, especially when you're really, really tired, and the brain is actually purging. So when it's going through that purging part of it, it may simulate certain things to kind of shock your body to clear out those energies. Or sometimes those jolts that you have are actually to break up certain locked up patterns within yourself. Because you will, if you pay attention, you will notice it will create a shift within yourself, so that it actually goes into a state where it creates some form of opening and unlocks a certain part of that pattern, so that the pattern doesn't have the same grasp as before. All right. Lucid dreams involving soul twin connections, will they experience as well characteristic versions of aspects of me? Okay, that's a good question. So, lucid dream. Thank you for guys when you write question on it. That way it gives me the opportunity to point it out easier. All right, so I'll read it again. Lucid dreams involving the soul, twin connections. Will they experience it as well, or are all the characters versions of aspects of me? Well, everybody's an aspect of you anyways, no matter what state you're playing with. But we do have a soul connection. So if you're talking about your twin soul, what you're experiencing, everything that you are doing, it is being communicated to your twin, to your matched signature, but it's also going into the oversoul and vice versa. So there is an exchange. Now, how it applies, what is being utilized, what is available, and so forth, that will depend on where you are in your experience, what is going to be beneficial and necessary for you as you go along. So just to understand that, we do have the connection. Now, a lot of times in the dream state and sleeping state and also the awakened state and so forth of what you call daydreaming state, it will create versions or access versions that are available, will need to be utilized as part of that experience to give us the opportunity to kind of either create a shift, expand something, or something of that nature. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to access those versions, because those versions will come about in your awakened state once you're repeating that or activating that part of it into your reality. Then they'll step in and play that particular role, so you will see that version. But realistically, we're all versions of ourselves. Everybody's a version of you. This is a version because this is how we do all of this. We're all versions of each other. But we utilize all of that. We utilize it in a powerful way for ourselves. So the other thing is too, at times what happens, and this is a good point, and it's my soul would like to share it with you, is that some of the experiences that, on this realm and this state of consciousness that we're in. For example, right now we're still very polarized, even though the inverted matrix is no longer active. The planet Gaia is not supporting either platforms or in inverted 3D or 2D. That's still active. It's still playing out because we're still projecting it, because it's still in our ego mind. It's still part of our subconscious mind, and it's playing out and it's purging, of course, as we're going along. And to kind of facilitate it, some things that we can create in our dreams, or what we call a daydreaming state, may have some parameters only for the fact that we kind of see that it's not really that possible to plug it into this realm. And the same thing in the dream state. But what happens a lot of times, we end up also accessing other states that our soul may be streaming, or that we may be streaming from our twin soul, or we may be streaming from our oversoul, which are a cluster of 23 other souls, or in this case 22 plus your twin. And then the different chains of links of clusters that you may be able to bring in. So some of us may use in their dream state other versions of themselves as they were active before, being, say, on another planet, or being on a different timeline of the planet. For example, being from a previous life, or being in a state where how can I say, be positioned in another part of the world as an option, So some of those things will play out. And it's always perfect to give us the opportunity to be able to get a feel for all of those options and capacities, and then be able to utilize it in our experience to create changes. You have to understand that all of this stuff that's playing out, and especially the lucidity part, or lucid dreaming, it's all giving us the opportunity to really advance in a very powerful way. These are powerful, powerful tools that we've brought in and are activating. Now, it's been there for a long, long time. However, many more of us are activating it. And, we're having this conversation today, or I'm sharing this today, because it was the next stage that we want to put our attention. Now, some of you have been using this for quite some time. Some of you have been using it for a long time and not even aware that you were using it. Others had a different interpretation of what it represented. And some of us are just new to it. And, our experience. So I wanted to give you the tools because it gives you the opportunity to utilize it in a more powerful way. Let me just see what else we got here. When I was young, I would have experiences of high levels of vertigo while laying down to sleep at times. It would be scary, and when I closed my eyes, it's like my falling from very high. Okay. Yeah, so I just want to see how I can word this for you. It basically represented feeling at that point in time. It was amplifying the feeling of loss of control, not able to utilize your experience. Sometimes the falling, we experience ourselves falling or feeling ourselves that, we have no balance. That's kind of simulating that powerful feeling of not having control, or that, in fact, that you can't navigate your life. We do go through certain experiences in our life where we feel that we have no navigational ability, that it's almost like a runaway car. You're in a car and you have, the steering wheel doesn't work, the brakes don't work, and so forth, and it's like run away. That's kind of really stimulating the fact that you feel that, and also to address it so that you can actually go into that. So you can plug in the lucidity part and say, okay, I choose to activate lucid dreaming right now, or activate that part of it, and then see it. But if you're experiencing something of that nature, write it out. See, I saw myself falling. I saw myself, how was it, falling and, oh yeah, in vertical, whatever it is. How did I feel about it? I felt uncomfortable. It brought up these fears, or brought up whatever. So you want to use that as a tool for yourself to be able to bring yourself back into alignment. Because there are certain factors. Sometimes what happens is that we get involved in certain experiences and so forth, and that makes us feel not only disempowered, that we have really, really no control of our life. And I know this can come up with also with the idea that the soul, or that we have no free will, or that the soul is the only part that's navigating. Well, you have to understand, the full part here is the soul is going to be taking more of an active role, but our experience creation is still, all facets of yourself. So it is a body creation, it's a human entity creation, it's a soul creation, a mind creation of using what is there as a resource, and at times your subconscious mind, which you're still using and purging, but also a co-creation with other individuals. And you're maybe playing certain roles to facilitate each other and to create a new platform or a new reality. Now, keep in mind, everything that you're experiencing, everything that you're transmuting and experiencing in one way or another, is not only enhancing yourself, but all the connections that you have and everywhere that you go and so forth, but it's also affecting the collective in a powerful way. And that experience of the collective at this point is part of the agreement we made. So how can I be instrumental in one way or another to really help reshape? Because many of us are in a position where you're looking at the world, and of course you see it where it's going, and all the things that played out just specifically recently and still playing out to some degree right now. It's not cleared up in any way, and with the potential of bringing other versions of it or another degree of it, and saying, well, we don't want to repeat this. Well, that's true, you don't. And the other part is you don't want to repeat also the old version before all of that happened. So in essence, you're putting yourself in a position to kind of see that you don't want to judge the experience, but at the same time you want to be active in reshaping it. So you could use all of those facets of what you can call the sleep dream state, and you can use your daydreaming state and your reality in a lucid way to redesign it. And when you are redesigning it and you're engaging with others in this redesign, because you can have more of a collaborative dream state. For example, and this I wanted to share, is that if you get together with certain people, it could be online, it could be in person, preferably in person, but that doesn't always work. So online is the next best option. And that is where you can start using daydreaming together. So you can bring in certain topics and certain ideas of what direction we want to look at, see things, and then verbalize those three. So first of all, spend the time to see yourself in a lucid state to change it. Now, you're going to remind each other, hey, we're going to stay lucid. That means that we are in charge of shaping it and we do not have limits. And so by that, you may be stretching it. Maybe the stretch is not capable because of the collective, but that stretching is also already creating an alteration. So that stretching still makes it more natural, maybe not as far, but far enough to be able to already be quite a bit different than the way it was before. Or at least the limits that were there, you stretched it. Now you may stretch it quite far, but then it only goes back to a certain degree, but it's still stretched more than it was before. So you can use that as something that you can collaborate together in what you can call daydreaming. Now, daydreaming can be also utilized as called visioning, so you can envision. But the thing is, in the envisioning, you can envision certain things. In the daydreaming, you can really imagine further. So you're basically going in the vision, seeing yourself, experiencing it, but seeing it in a very clear, powerful way of how all of that is playing out for you. So really to be in that experience much more vivid, let's call it that. Okay. Where I woke up, could not move or speak. I very rarely have it, but when it comes up, it's quite fiery. Can you address this? Yes, we've all had paralyzation. We go into a dream state and we can wake up and remain paralyzed for a period of time. That's kind of a sleep paralysis. Oh, can't say the word. Paralyzed. There's nobody here to help me today, so I can't say it. Paralysis. Okay, being paralyzed, where you can't move your body, right? So in essence, you can use that, just write it out, experience it, but see what comes up. So if you feel fear, what are you afraid of? So write it out. What was I afraid of? See what thoughts come up, what response. Now, the reason we go through that, there's a disconnect. So you're experiencing a certain reality that is projected, and the mind actually creates a separation. So in fact, that you're in that dream state, and it's not linking you back into the awakened state as well. And so for a period of time, until everything starts to come back into line, you may feel totally paralyzed. And sometimes the only the paralyzation is that you may have other scenes coming in and you can't move, you can't change it. So you are forced to be in the observer state and then see what comes up for you. A lot of times it has to do accentuated disempowerment, or feeling that in some way and somehow that you may be victim, or that in some way somehow you do not have any say in the matter, or you can't navigate. So when you're in that paralyzed state, you're going to say, I activate my lucidity, but don't fight it. Just be there and allow it to come in. It will come back in a lot quicker, but you can also utilize that. I know as a young person, I had that quite often. I haven't had that in many years now, and I've heard this many people, because I've worked with thousands of people over the 35 years or so when I was doing a lot of the sessions and so forth and helping them go through it. It was more common, it's less common now, but that doesn't mean it's not there. But depending on the state that you're in, just kind of observe what is the point of it is coming up. So a lot of times we get caught up in that other state, but it's also kind of showing us that, we may feel that disempowered, non-controlled state. So just allow yourself to experience it. It does transcend, or in this case, you step out of it and you'll be able to move it. I know as a kid, when I had those experiences, a lot of times when I was in that paralyzed state, things were happening around me. And here you are, partially awake, you're observing, but you're also seeing another movie, you're seeing another layer. So you have your reality, and then there's another reality, and there's other influences or other representations coming in. Sometimes they were beings, sometimes there were, other individuals showing up and so forth. And so anyways, but just observe it and see how it feels, and allow yourself to go into that lucid, but without fighting it or resisting it, and just do that. Now, of course, the way things are moving very quickly right now, it's not as common, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And depending on the state that you're in, you may have that experience still play out at some point. So be okay with it. It's an awesome ride. Okay. I think that is when my parents got divorced. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback. Good. I think we've addressed all the questions. There's a lot to play with that we've shared. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. All the ones that are coming up is the ones I'm looking at. So that's pretty cool. I got lots of thank yous, so you're welcome. My absolute pleasure to be of service. Okay, so now you have something else to play with. I was going to do a little process. And the process really is not a process. It was for us to do it together to kind of use the daydreaming part of it and kind of just get a practice of it. So if you truly feel that you want me to do this with you, we can spend the next 10, 15, 20 minutes max, because we're already at the an hour and 42 minutes into this video, or else you just practice on your own. So if you really feel that you want to do it, then we can do it together. Just put yes, please, or whatever. You don't have to say the please, but just yes. We want to do the process together. Then we'll do that. Okay. Okay. So thank you, Franco. That was fun. Of course, it's fun. We get to play. All right. Peter sharing, I had a dream walking through a solid wall. Dream was still happening when I woke. Yes, you're going to find situations or experiences where, you know, in that dream state, you're not going to have the same barriers. And walking through walls or doing something that you normally can't in the waking state, that represents really the capacity of what we can do. And we have the capacity to do that. And the thing is, we're choosing not to, only because, you know, we're still playing in this so-called reality. Now, some people can do that. It's fully in our capacities, but it would change our experience. And we will, at some point, utilize more of it. But that gives you a taste, a kind of reminder that you are capable of doing that. So in the dream state, and sometimes when it bleeds into your so-called awakened state, feeling that you do that and you can, then it's just accentuating or stimulating those possibilities. A lot of times it may not be directly connected to walking through a wall, but a lot of times it's walking through a barrier we may have put up, or a shield that we've put up, or a wall that we've put up in our life not to experience because we wanted to go into safe mode, or we wanted to go in protection mode, or we wanted to, experience, not experience certain things, so we block it. Other times it may indicate that we are kind of shielding ourselves to others because of the fact that we still have a charge around it or something of that nature. So there's many components and reasons that we do that. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Linda's saying that she may not have internet connection or something of that nature. Well, if you Facebook, everything that goes on Facebook is going to be available for you to watch it, but it's also on YouTube. So if you go to Advancing Consciousness series and you click on the name, especially if you're going to use any of the links that are on Facebook, it's going to take you to that particular video. But if you go to the below the video where my name is, or it's not going to even say my name, it's going to say Advancing Consciousness series. If you click there, you're going to go to the home page, and if you click video, you can see all the videos there. There are over 70 videos. I counted it the other day. Now there's some repeats. I think there's 8 or 9 that are repeats, so there's still 61 videos there. with today, it's going to be 62. And when I say repeats, that means that maybe the copy didn't come out good, so I've put another version of it in there that is clean, and it usually says it's clean of the same one. Some cases when we did the meditations, that we put two versions up, one with music and one without music, so there's some duplications there. So I think there was about 8 or 9 that are repeats and different versions of it, but there are over 70 videos at this point in time, so 71 as of today. You can access all of that, and they'll be available for you. It's also available on Vimeo, so you can actually just put in Advancing Consciousness series. It will show up as Facebook. Because there will be a Facebook group. So if you're watching it on the Facebook group, then there is a Facebook group called Advancing Consciousness series. It's also on my public profile and my personal profile, so you have 3 versions of it. If you're watching it on Kimberly's, it's also on Kimberly's. But there's also the Advancing Consciousness on Facebook, but there's also 2 other channels that you can watch it on, and that is YouTube under Advancing Consciousness series, and Vimeo under Advancing Consciousness series. They'll be available. So if you miss out on some of them, you can go back later on when you do get the internet and be able to watch them and repeat it. And if you've already watched it, I would suggest you repeat them anyways. And of course, we're going to have the podcast coming out shortly. We're aiming for next week, so we're busily this week putting all the final touches and recordings and whatever else, and then most likely it will be launched Monday. And then of course we'll have our next one on Tuesday, our next Advancing Consciousness episode 35, next Tuesday. So we're only doing once a week for the month of July and August, and then we're going to be going back to 3 times a week in September. At some point, it might start later on in September, but that will reactivate again. But as for the podcast, the aim is to come out 5 times a week. So they'll be a little shorter. They'll be available in 2 versions. They'll be available in audio, which will be, of course, on iTunes and Spotify and the Google version and a whole bunch of other versions. Those will be all audios, but we also have a new channel, which has no videos at the moment. That new channel is also on YouTube, and it will be on Vimeo. And those ones are going to be called Advancing Consciousness Podcast. So that will be available also for you if you want to watch it on those platforms. However, we're going to post it on Facebook and wherever I can at this point in time, so that you know. And I would suggest to subscribe, and that way you will get notification as the new ones will come out, and we'll have new ones every day. I won't be using the board and doing all the writing stuff. It'll be more in front of the computer and communicating with you the different topics. The topics will be more concentrated and will be, of course, shorter. My intent is to also address people's questions there. And so each of the episodes will address a particular question. And if there's several questions coming together that are matched, then we'll kind of link them together. It's also going to provide any particular updates that comes along, certain observations and stuff like that comes about. So it will have a lot of different content, and you can listen to it while you're doing other things in your life, because you don't have to sit there and watch it. If you choose to do so, that will be available also. Okay. Most of those platforms. Okay, so Linda is able to access most of those platforms. Perfect. So that's great. I got a few yeses here about doing the process. So it's up to you. You can watch it later, or you can do it with me now. And we'll do it. It won't be very long. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use some daydreaming. But I'm going to guide you through it, walk you through it, only so that we can kind of support each other. So whoever wants to participate at this point in time can do so. And just give me a second here. Okay. Great. Okay. So just make yourself comfortable. I'm just going to bring my chair here so that I can sit also. And so if there's something particular that you want to look at, and just experiment with. Um, let's do some daydreaming. But as we do the daydreaming, we're going to remind each other, and I'm going to be, of course, guiding you through it, that we can step into the lucidity part and we can plug in anything we choose along the way. Okay, so let's close our eyes, and hopefully you're in a comfortable position. If you choose to focus on the breath for a moment, do so, just to bring you in a settled state. If not, that's okay too. And now you have to understand the daydreaming we can do also while we're doing other things. I would suggest not to close your eyes if you're doing something that requires your attention, but you can daydream. Now, there's going to be opportunities, and I want you to understand this, and this is for you as another part of the tool, is that sometimes you're involved with certain scenarios, situations, circumstances, or even be watching television, or I don't know what, watching a video or something of that nature. And if an idea comes up and we have a tendency, some triggers come up and we go into the daydreaming. And so see yourself going into the daydream, but enter it in a lucid state. So just choose to say, okay, I choose to be lucid when I'm envisioning that. And then you can shape it, plug in whatever you choose along the way. Okay, so you can do it while you're doing. So we have that tendency already for many of us, using that part of our imagination and whatever else. But the more you practice it, more comfortable it becomes. And so just use it. It's a tool. It's a tool. Everything is a tool right now that we can utilize to really, really speed up the process that we're going through in our the dance of life. Let me just check on something. Okay. So let's put our attention on the breath and just relax and just be present with the breath. And we just want to pay attention to the movement of the breath and just be relaxed. Each time we exhale, just feel yourself becoming more relaxed, letting go any tension, any concerns, anything that may distract you. Just let it go. We're going to be present. We're going to be in this moment. This is the only moment that exists. This is this moment. In this moment, you have chosen to participate in this process. In this process, we're doing together. So all of us are supporting each other, energetically, and holding a specific space. Now, of course, what we're going to be daydreaming is going to differ, and that's okay. That's the plan. It's not for us to all envision the same. But you'll notice there'll be some linking that will occur. So as we're getting more and more relaxed, going into that beautiful, relaxed state, feeling more and more comfortable. So let's bring up something we want to daydream about. It may be something that you wanted to create a change, or choose that you want to experience another version of it, or even the fact that you want to make a choice. We're going to only use one choice now. So if you have more than one choice to make, for example, do I go or I don't go? Choose one. Just now, one. You can practice the other one later, after we've done this process. So let's choose one. So if you make a choice to do something, go somewhere, or experience a reality that's kind of been playing out in your life, so let's see yourself envisioning that space. Envision that reality. You can see yourself there, you can feel yourself there, you can just let your mind kind of shape a reality around it. Don't be so concerned if you can't visualize as well. What you want to do is basically take certain visions that you're aware of something that you've experienced, and just kind of see it in your mind as that scenario being there. So use components of your memory of something that you may have already experienced. For example, if you've gone to your family dynamics, you're well aware what the house and the people that are going to play or or the individuals involved and so forth, so you can see them being present in your daydream. If it's to do with work, see yourself at work. And allow people to be themselves, whatever it is. And what we're going to do is just focus on being present as the observer. You're going to observe what's playing out. And as you're observing what's playing out, seeing and feeling and experiencing yourself there, just pay attention to anything that may be coming up for you. And what I mean about that, any emotions, any sensations, any stories, just be present. At times you can put more color, more vibrancy in the vision or what you're experiencing. See yourself turning up the volume of the experience. So as you see yourself there, say to yourself, I choose to experience this daydream in a lucid state. I choose to experience this lucid dream or this daydream in a lucid state. I am in full control of designing this dream. Step outside of any limits. Just plug in what you feel you'd like to plug in. It may be certain connections, certain energy in the environment, involving particular individuals. See yourself there. So if you're visiting a family, you're present in the family. See everybody being themselves. Whatever version of themselves there is, because many people are not being themselves. They may think it is, but it's an ego version facade self, and that's okay. That's not for you to change. If you're at work, the same thing. So since you've chosen to be lucid, now activate within yourself, I choose to be fully myself. I'm not going to play any role that is expected of me or any of my old roles. I'm choosing to be fully myself. And in seeing yourself as yourself in that scene, in that engagement, let the interaction, communication, or anything that's involved to take place as yourself. And just observe as you do so. Just observe how you are feeling, what you are noticing. If there's any default part of you coming up. And without judgment, you can change it. You're not going to judge one versus the other. It's all good. So see yourself in that scenario, being yourself and interacting as yourself, communicating as yourself, and observe what the communication is like and the responses that are taking place between yourself and the individuals participating. In fact, you can also see what version is presenting and how it may change because you're being yourself. We want to stretch our imagination, our capacity of our lucidity. So plug in something that you kind of would like to experience but have never even dared to go there. Or that you believe that it was not possible. Let's drop the not possible part and let's see yourself experiencing what was once known as impossible. Pay attention, observe how it feels by doing what would have been considered impossible. Pay attention to any shift in your energy, any excitement that may be coming up. And if you wish to venture even further, change the scenario of the experience in your daydream. Remember, you are lucid. That means you have control. You can plug in any part of it. And you can remove any part of it. It does not need to match what you've experienced in the past. Your approach is brand new. One more time, just focus on how it feels and see how you feel the energies change within you. How it expands your imagination. It's stretching it. But at the same time, see how it feels to be that version of you in those scenarios, those interactions. If any fear, concerns, stories come up, you're going to write them down after. And you want to clear those out, because this is a good practice ground. And each time you repeat it, it'll bring up more that needs to be addressed if necessary, but also open you up even further. That's the beauty of this process. Okay, well, this gives us a sample. And some of you may have felt very uplifted and felt very expansive going through that. But now you have a reference point of how you can use your daydreaming in a lucid state, how you can use your dream state in a lucid state, and your awakened state in a lucid state. As lucid, you are in charge. You're the designer, while being fully aware of so. So you can gently put your attention on the breath and use the next few breaths to kind of bring you back into your awakened reality at this time. So repeat this and expand with it. Take your time. This is just to give you a basic understanding how it works. This gives you the tool to play with. All right. Thank you for being so amazing. Thank you for participating today. Please make the time to repeat it. And each time you do it, it becomes more powerful. The tool is more usable. It becomes more refined. It gives you much more capacity. And that's the beauty of it all. This is yours. This is yours to use. You've chosen to advance in a powerful way. You've chosen to speed up the process. And guess what? You're doing it. You're doing it in a very powerful way. So thank you for that. I thank everybody for your contribution, for your support, and so forth. We're always open to receive your support. If this resonates for you, please do so. It's up to you. This is not an expectation. It's allowing the platform to support us so that we can continue to bring you more and more powerful tools without applying a real cost to it, so that more people can access it. Because the more of us that do it, the more powerfully we transform our collective experience at this point in time. And right now it's so instrumental, and this is why I didn't want to put a paywall for all of this. But at the same time, we do have our costs and so forth of what we call of the 3D life game that we're playing as we're going through this transition. So thank you for that. Thank you for all your support elsewhere. If you did not get the opportunity to experience the workshop, the latest workshop that we had a few weeks ago, deprogramming, clearing, and empowerment, it's in the link. The contribution link of PayPal is also in the description. So yes, feel free. There's nobody else to post it, so I may post it later, just to have it on the comment section. But at this point in time, unless there's anything else, I think we did a beautiful dance together. Thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. That's great. Perfect. All right. Fantastic. Thank you guys for all the beautiful comments and support and everything else. So go out and play, have a blast, utilize our lucidity in our dream state, in our wakened state, in our daydreaming. So go out and play. So thank you.